everyone, good evening, everyone present here. Today we have with ourselves a really special guest, Mr. Nishant Govindrajan. He's an automobile engineer and enthusiast, currently working as an engineer at SRM Nikki Auto Systems in ECU calibration and testing department. To put it into his words, he's passionate about anything auto with an excellent knowledge about product strategy, planning, and business development. He graduated from SRM Institute of Science and Technology and is an IASSC certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and has done process excellence projects in supply chain, production, and finance at Ashok Leyland. He's also a ASTC certified automotive technician level 5. So Nishant is devoted to the DIY ideology when it comes to maintaining his vehicles and is currently pursuing his MTech in automotive electronics from BITS Pilani via the WILP route. He loves playing tennis and critiquing vehicle portfolios on sale. Mr. Nishant is also a management committee member of SAE India's Southern Section Mahindra World City Division and strives to bring a positive change to the society. Sir, it's an honor to have you with us tonight. We are all huge automotive enthusiasts ourselves, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. Please, whenever you proceed, whenever you feel like it, it's all yours.
Great. It's an honor and pleasure. Thank you very much, Arjun, for that great intro, and thank you, Tash, for connecting with me on LinkedIn and giving me the opportunity to interact with you all. And I sincerely thank the management of VIT Vellore and especially SAE VIT Student Chapter for giving me the opportunity. And I would like to, ramble on for say 30 minutes, and then I would like to interact with you. I feel the interaction part would be, more favorable than me presenting, what is there in my PPT.
Definitely,
so,
sir.
Yeah. So I just start with the PPT. Hope the PPT is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So today's topic is an overview of the Indian automobile industry. As you know, the Indian automotive industry is one of the largest in the whole world. The Indian automotive market is currently in the top five. We are, only after China, US, Europe, and Japan. And this is not in terms of number of vehicles produced, it is in terms of number of vehicles registered. So the number of vehicles produced will be way higher as India is a major production and export hub. As you can see, a few examples, probably Hyundai, using a three-parameter plant to roll out mostly exports and majority for the Indian market as well. And also you could see Daimler India commercial vehicles, even in the lockdown, they've produced profits with exclusively export sales. So that is something which is a product made for the Southeast Asian market, and also a few markets in Latin America, but it is developed and designed in India. There are a lot of automotive clusters in our great subcontinent. In Tamil Nadu itself, Chennai, Sriperumbudur, Kanchipuram, and Chengalpat. Basically, Chennai is called the Detroit of South Asia, Detroit of Asia, probably. In India, you also have Pune's Pimpri Chinchwad area, which is a huge auto hub. A lot of manufacturing and production take place. And also, even in the Haryana Manesar belt, you have a lot more companies, especially Maruti Suzuki, homegrown Maruti Suzuki, Honda, and the like. So we shall move on with the main topics of the presentation. So this is what I would like to talk to you all about. What exactly is it that we make? How much of what we make we sell? How the product, as in the car, has evolved throughout the ages? What are the regulations which drive about this product or the way in which it is developed for the Indian customer? What is the way forward? As in, what else can we do? What else will the Indian customer want? And finally, I would like to talk about a couple of disruptions which are happening in the Indian automobile industry. And basically, this is what is happening the world over. And then, as I said, I would like to have the Q&A session with you. So let's start off. What exactly do we make? Well, we make every single thing in the world, right from, say, cycles to battle tanks. So if you take cycles, you have homegrown Hero cycles, which is the best in the world. You have Atlas, Hercules, Mark City, and also the famous Mantra cycles. So cycles are the most easiest way to commute, especially the geared cycles. People would say it pollutes the environment lesser, and it also makes you fit. But I disagree. I would go for an internal combustion engine any day over pedal power or say human power. I wouldn't go for an EV as well. Moving on, two wheelers. This Splendor has the picture which I'm showing you has been there for ages and ages, for over 20 years, with the same engine that it came out with, that is was introduced with in India. The only difference being due to BS6, it is fuel injected. Otherwise, if they had found a workaround to make it carbureted, we would find the same engine right from India 2000 or BS1 norms till BS6. So Hero makes the most two-wheelers out of anybody in the whole world, and a very close competitor for being the most produced vehicle or most sold vehicle would be the Honda Activa. Funnily, in fact, the Splendor also was a part of the Honda portfolio. Initially, it was Hero Honda. Now it is separated to become Hero Motorcorp. And I think last couple of months ago they celebrated their 100 millionth two-wheeler sale. But internal combustion engine is not the only thing we do. We also have a lot of startups which have gone the electric vehicle route, like Aether Energy, and also the long-awaited Ola electric scooter, which is launching day after tomorrow, which is basically a Dutch startup's uh, uh, design, which is being manufactured in India, and that too in Tamil Nadu. Next, we move on to three-wheelers. You might have gone to school in a Bajaj auto rickshaw or a TVS King auto rickshaw. You might have had your refrigerators or sofas, which you've bought at the dealership, being brought to your house in one of these Piaggio 8 three-wheelers or even the Bajaj RE three-wheelers. One fun fact about the three-wheelers is that this is the sector which is readily accepting the electric vehicle trend, because the people do not want to go to their diesel counterparts. They feel that the electric vehicle counterparts like the Mahindra Trio and the Trio Yari give them a much better total cost of ownership than their diesel counterparts. Well, BS6 regulations also have favored the EVs due to the high cost of investments of diesel and the maintenance as well. And also, every single small capacity engine cannot be fitted with an SCR and lead NOx trap and DEF after treatment system. So, which is why certain manufacturers have also introduced petrol-powered three-wheelers. Then again, they still favor the electric vehicle, albeit in an unorganized sector. Moving on, we come to the four-wheelers. Four-wheelers are what constitutes, a significant chunk of the sales after the two-wheeler market. You have everything ranging from a small hatchback to a large pickup, pseudo SUVs, and also true blue SUVs like the Fortuner and the Endeavour. So, Maruti Suzuki India Limited is one of the stalwarts in the industry. They've garnered over 51% market share all this while, and the only time you could find something other than a Maruti being the best-selling car was in the lockdown time, when they dispatched more the number of Cretas than the Alto 800. So that was the only time during lockdown one and during the first wave of lockdown and the second wave of the Corona lockdown that the Hyundai Creta emerged as the best-selling car, and Maruti Suzuki was, left in the dust. Also, you have brands like Kia and MG who have really rocked up the market with their new products. But you also have true blue, old school people like Toyota and Honda. Buses. Ashok Leyland is the number one bus manufacturer in India. This is obviously an SML Isuzu picture, but I feel this would be more representative of the smaller companies which are, looking up to Leyland and Tata. We also have trucks. We make trucks all the way from 1 ton gross vehicle weight ratio to gross vehicle weight rating to say 55 tons. So this is the biggest truck which you can find with the 55-ton frame payload capacity. But obviously you can have it with either a 4-axle or 5-axle configuration. Next, this is the indigenously designed and developed Arjun main battle tank. This is also manufactured in India, surprisingly, at the Combat Vehicles Research and Development Center in association with DRDO. But you also have traditional companies like Ashok Leyland, Mahindra, and Tata who manufacture army vehicles, like the Stallion, which is manufactured at Vehicle Factory Jabalpur, and also the rocket launchers, which are manufactured rocket launcher carriers, which are manufactured by Leyland. Right. This might be surprising, but then we do manufacture the HAL Tejas multi-role attack fighter aircraft as well. And this was also indigenously designed and developed, and is also most of the parts are being manufactured in India as well. And I think it would be inducted into full-time service very soon. Well, nobody can forget what machine this is. This, the fondly called JCB, or the correct name for it is a Backhoe Loader, is the favorite of any small child who goes to a construction site and would like to play around or just look at it playing around with all the dirt and would want a smaller version of it to play with themselves. So we have a lot of tractors and agricultural equipment being manufactured in India, and Mahindra is one of the market leaders. Well, we make trains as well. So Integral Coach Factory, Chennai makes Train 18, one of India's largest passenger trains. And another commercial train, also the Alstom train, the engine prime mover in fact, is also being manufactured in India. Well, this might be surprising, but this is India's first indigenously developed and manufactured aircraft carrier. So earlier we got our aircraft carriers from either Russia or England, and this is one which went into sea trials a few days ago and returned successfully. So this is really a big thing for India, And again, tractors, we make the most tractors out of the whole world. Mahindra tractors are number one. We also, Tafe, Massey Ferguson also have a lot of plants in India, especially in Madurai. And to top it off, the latest trend in whatever there is in electric vehicle. This is Ola's, or rather I say Etergo's electric scooter being manufactured in Tamil Nadu. Now, this was something on the OEM side. So who do you think makes the components which go into this? So there are a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers as well who help the OEMs manufacture their components for them. For example, you have Force Motors, who manufactures engines and gearboxes for Mercedes and BMW. You have Dana Spicer, who makes axles for trucks and buses. And on the bottom here, you have an AVL electric axle, which you would find a single speed reduction and differential built in. So this would give you the same performance as a traditional petrol or diesel engine differential and gearbox combination. This is exclusively for electric vehicles. And AVL is not the only people who've designed. There are also people like Dana, who themselves have got an E-axle and E-drivetrain. Brake pads, The entire brake pads, right from the material to the back plate and the cover and the piston and the caliper pins, are all manufactured in India, and a significant chunk of the brake manufacturing is done by the TVS Group. Brakes India, Sundaram Brake Linings, Sundaram Fasteners, etc., etc. Believe it or not, we are really, prepped and ready for the electric vehicle revolution if and when it comes to India. As everything ranging from an ECU for a hybrid vehicle to an electric vehicle, a motor controller is manufactured in India. For representation purposes, I've got the Bosch ECU. Switches, switches are also manufactured by a major chunk of the Tokai Reka group with Uno Minda. Obviously, batteries are made by Amaron, and also they've given plans to start up a gigafactory in India, which also will cater to the electric vehicle needs with lithium-ion battery cell manufacturing. Also, a startup by IIT Madras, Grintech, is also manufacturing in Ambattur, in fact, lithium-ion cells for two-wheelers with swappable technology. Obviously, wheels and tires. You have big rubber factories of MRF and Apollo tires, and also giants like Enkai, Kose, and of course, Wheels India. Right, so that is what we make. So, how much of it do we sell as a complete, product? In the two-wheelers, you have everything from the Splendor to the Apache, the Activa, TVS XL, sold in really large numbers. So this is actually June data, because it is just the beginning of August, and you won't have proper data till say the mid or the end of August. So as you can see, the most sales of any two-wheelers by the Hero Splendor, almost 2.6 lakh Splendors have been sold in 1 month. So you might say, what lockdown? So people are just buying, two-wheelers left, right, and center. And also, thanks to, or fortunately or unfortunately, I should say, the lockdown or the corona pandemic has brought about real importance to personal mobility, which is why the used car market in many parts of the world is booming much more than the new car market. You would have found this chip shortage news in every other news article or newspaper you read, you come across every single day or every single week. Why is that so? Everybody is sitting at home, either working from home or studying from home. They would need either a laptop or a phone, or probably a Bluetooth speaker or Bluetooth earphones, etc. So every single thing is electronic nowadays, right? So everything is computer controlled and accurate and precise. So all these things require chips. Semiconductors are a very risky business, and they are done only by 2 or 3 people in the whole world, and that too in only 3 countries: Taiwan, China, and Japan. So when the pandemic started, all focus of the manufacturers went to personal gadget space, as in mobiles and laptops, which is why you would have found many features being removed from cars. You would not find the lane departure system or the autonomous emergency braking in certain variants of cars. Why is that? It's not because they can't do it. They had it in the last year. Why can't they have it this year, this model year? It's because they don't have the semiconductor chips. They don't have the controller for that system. Which is why you would have seen most Mahindra cars being shipped to the dealer's yard without the infotainment system. So this is the major issue which the supply chains are facing nowadays. And, until this is being sorted, you would find a large lack of personal gadgets, and as well as gadgets for your cars. So these are the four-wheelers. Four-wheelers, again, Maruti. The whole thing is filled. Every other car, every other third car you see on the road is a Maruti. And something I would like to bring to your notice. There is something called wholesale data, and there is also something called retail data. Wholesale data is how much the companies produce, which is sent only to the dealership. Retail data is how many cars are actually sold to the customers. So if you take, say, June data, Splendor says 2.7 lakh Splendor sold. If you see registrations, you will find only 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh. Why is that so? It's not because people are not uh, buying. There are orders, but there are only so many which are registered, and only so many you are found on the roads. So that would translate to the next month, and which is why it would move on as data of the next month. So you might say that, yeah, fine, we've sold 2.7 lakhs, bikes, but how many are actually on the road? Only 1 lakh. So this is the discrepancy. Only India, measures um, sales data as a measure of the wholesale data, not the retail data. Which is why initially the stats I told you from Statista was India being the fifth largest auto market. It was on new car registrations, not sales. It was registrations, which is the actual number which you find on the road. Finally, electric vehicles are a thing. We have to accept them whether we like them or not. You might say, fine, I'm a petrol head. I'm an enthusiast. I like driving an old car. So I like driving an old car too. I have a 16-year-old Zen, which I, very passionately drive about every day. But still, some way or the other, I would, or rather, every single person would have to move to some sort of electric mobility. It need not be completely electric, like a full-on battery electric vehicle, but it might be something as simple as regenerative braking, which you get, an electrified vehicle, so to speak. So, in the whole of last year, FY21 means calendar year, April 20 to March 21. That is what financial year 21 means. So there have been 1.4 lakh two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers sold. Three-wheelers, as I said, the unorganized sector is larger, and there have been 90,000 three-wheelers sold. And finally, we come to the very, very few choices in the electric four-wheeler segment, which are the MG ZS EV, Tata Nexon, Tata Nexon EV, Tata Tigor EV, and Mahindra e-Toro, which I think was recently discontinued. And obviously, the Hyundai Kona. So if you see year on year, it has decreased in the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler space, but in the four-wheeler space, it has increased. Why? Because you had much more choice. That's all. Now, we come to the product evolution. Initially, we didn't have any manufacturing capability or skill, which is why we imported a lot of cars. So, what cars did we import? We imported a lot of, American cars like the Plymouth, Belvedere, the Dodge Kingsway, etc. And slowly, people decided that this was too expensive. We need something for the masses. So then finally, Mahindra contract manufactured the Willys Jeep, one model of the Willys TJ3B, and that started the whole production of vehicles in India. Obviously, civilian use was much limited, and this was for the army, but still, we started somewhere. So something which the people could actually buy was these PAL or Premier Padminis, which was basically a bigger version of the Fiat Millicento, the 1100. So this had slightly civilian features. There was absolutely no suspension in the Willys Jeep. You had suspension, you had comfort, so to speak, in the Premier. You had proper brakes, you had a proper steering system, manual of course, but still it was something you could say a civilized car comparing to the Jeep. Then the Japs came into the picture with Maruti. The Indian government, made Maruti Udyog, and finally you had the Maruti 800. Obviously, this was the last Gen 800. But the first one, the SS80, was a really small key car in Japan, which was imported to India. The first few batches were imported, and then they were manufactured in India. So I want to tell you what exactly a kei car is. A kei car or a keiji dosha in Japan terms is a small you have sub 4 meter cars in India, but that is not sub 4 meter. It's almost a sub 3 meter car with only a maximum capacity of 700 cc's for the engine. You could go only say 60 or 70 kmph, and it also had to be a particular height, particular width, and a particular length. So, which is why you would find very crazy variants of the Maruti 800 called the Maruti Alto Works, which was a three-cylinder 800, 700 cc gasoline direct injection turbo. You would find, okay, gasoline direct injection turbo, all that fine. I would find that in a BS6, or it's focused for performance. No, this guy had about a maximum 60 horsepower. That was it. And you could not go fast. You will topple all the time. But then again, since everybody else had a key car, there was no place for going fast. So from this, from the 800, people wanted mirrors on both sides. People wanted luxury, safety. They wanted the same color they had in the body as for their bumpers. So this was also the time when Hyundai came in. Hyundai introduced their Santro and also a slightly better version called the Getz. So you would say the Getz was something. There were much better cars at the time. But then again, the Getz was safer. It was more comfortable, and also the key part of it was the back seat, because most Indians were chauffeur driven. So the back seat was where Hyundai gave the most comfort. The boot was a mess. You couldn't keep anything in the boot, but the back seat was the best. So that is where they paid more attention to, and it was more comfortable, and you could say luxurious at the time with leather seats and a working air conditioner as standard, and also body color bumpers, which you could not get in a Maruti. Moving on, Mahindra decided to drop their fully ladder frame SUV heritage and made what I would say is a pseudo SUV, or say a crossover, because it looks like an SUV but it's a front wheel drive drivetrain and does not have four-wheel drive or a ladder frame chassis for off-roading, which an SUV, so to speak, should have. So this is the last iteration of the XUV 500. The initial one had a proper monocoque construction, had an all-wheel drive variant as an option, and it was much safer than anything else on the road. And it also gave Mahindra a chance to showcase their abilities and poise them as one of the front runners for the SUV compact. No, you can't say compact, a pseudo SUV segment. From this, people decided that Indians like SUVs, and that trend was started by the EcoSport, which was not a hatchback, it was not a crossover, it was slightly bigger than a hatchback, it was more luxurious, it was comfortable, and by luxurious I don't mean Rolls-Royce standards, I mean relative to what else was offered at the time, like the Getz and whatnot. So the EcoSport started this whole false SUV segment in India, and it was moved on. The latest iteration of the pseudo SUV thing is the Kia Seltos, which you could say was a runaway success for Kia in India, because they gained 4% market share with only one car. And in the recent time that they've been here, almost say 3 years or 2 years or 3 years, they've garnered about 3 lakh sales. Toyota even couldn't accomplish that with the Qualis back in the 2000s. But then Kia have managed to grasp what the Indian customer wants exactly. The Indian customers want something fresh. They want a global product to show off to their friends, saying, "Oh, you've got connected car features. I too. I can connect my phone to my SIM to connect my phone to my car. I say car, open the window. It opens the window. I say car, start yourself. I'll be sitting in the third floor of my house. I press a button, it'll start, or I use the voice command on my phone, connect it to the car, it'll start the car." So all these gimmicks, were liked by the young crowd of buyers for the car, young Indians who wanted a car, who wanted something which looks like an SUV but drives like a hatchback and has the maintenance of a hatchback. So the Kia Seltos, you would feel that by looking at the body shell, it's a rugged SUV, but it's not. It is simply a hatchback, and it's got pretty advanced drivetrain as well. Now, safety, depending on the crash test, looking at the global NCAP crash test, it's not as safe as it turns out to be. When you compare the Renault Kwid and Kia Seltos, the Renault Kwid is much safer, ironically. But then again, this was the best of what Kia could offer at the time with the new product with connected car features and whatnot. Now, I would not do justice to the whole product offering in India without giving a chance to the alternate propulsion technologies. Say electric vehicles, for example. So this is one such electric vehicle, which is the MG ZS EV. It doesn't have an engine. It might look like a conventional car, but it has no engine, no radiator, which is why the front grille is a charging port and not a radiator. But it looks a whole lot like a traditional car, and the whole floor is replaced with batteries. You have an electric motor on the front, typical front wheel drive layout. And I think Autocar India, in one of their tests, ran it up to I think 600 kilometers on one supposed end-to-end battery range. That is from charging to fully depletion. But that you could do with no AC by going at 40 kmph and obviously making your life miserable. So unless we could find cars which make the same range as a petrol car, we won't be able to shift to EVs that much. That sooner. Plus, you can't keep changing the batteries every 5 years when the battery cost is around half of what the car is. So, obviously, EVs are not the only thing which is there in India. You have hybrids too, like the Toyota Camry, and I think Prius also was sold in India for quite some time. Right. Now, how did we come to all these cars? What drove them? What are the regulations which the government has enforced on the cars to make them how they are and what they look like and what they drive like and what they react like? So basically, it's just two. One on the emissions side, two on the safety side. So to make Indian products global, they wanted to ape the Europeans. So Europeans have Euro 6. So India proposed BS6. So if you could look at the pop-up in front of you, you have petrol vehicles on the top and diesel on the bottom. So what is the big difference, you could say? Why does my carbon dioxide, hydrocarbons, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter have to be at particular 0.0045? Why can't it be higher? Why can't I just take a 6.7 liter V8, pop it in my car and drive about? Because if we do that, we're harming the environment. And obviously, we just have one Earth. We don't have multiple Earths which we can use. So if this is gone, I'll just use another one. We can't, just go populate Mars and use Mars. Anyway, that's a different story. But we just have one Earth, one environment, so we have to protect the environment. Apparently, automobiles are the number one reason for pollutions because there are a lot of automobiles and there are emissions in different places. So I would not say electric vehicles are the only solution for this. Electric vehicles just produce more power at the power plant, so you have a localized source of emission higher apart from tens of thousands of emission sources. So, but then major places of impact for BS6 vehicles to BS4 vehicles. BS6 diesel vehicles need complex after treatment systems like an SCR, a DPF, and a lean lock strap in certain cases. For those of you who want to go deeper into this technical aspect of SCR, selective catalytic reduction, it's basically another fluid which is injected into your after treatment exhaust in your exhaust stream to effectively neutralize the NOx emissions. So the same thing is done in the diesel particulate filter for particulate matter emissions. But then there are certain user issues. Every now and then your DPF will say DPF choked, either idle the diesel car for 1 hour in high idle mode, or drive the car fast for about 10 minutes at 80 kmph or higher. So suppose you live in the city, where can you drive the car for 80 kmph? You can't. So you will be sitting around in your car, inhaling all the exhaust fumes while your car is idling, just to clean the system, which makes your car cleaner. So my advice would be, move away from a diesel car and go for a petrol car. Or if you have the choice and the patience, go for an electric vehicle. So next, coming to safety, it was only in 2019 that automakers were forced to, make their cars stronger. Why is that? Because the type approval process for making the cars in RI or ICAT or even GARC have mandated that a car should be able to withstand the impact of, say, another vehicle or a barrier, so to speak, at 60 kmph. There should be minimal impact to the driver and the passenger, front co-passenger, basically the occupants of the car. So this is tested in three ways. One is a full frontal impact, where the car is catapulted or driven at a constant 60 kmph into a wall head on. There's another one which is driven not head on but slightly offset to imitate a car coming and colliding with you in the opposite direction. And also side impact. So you might be T-boned at the junction. You might be going, fine, the traffic light is green, I go. But there would be some idiot on the right or left side who doesn't look at the traffic light and just blazes past and T-bones you on the side. So you might have seen side intrusion beams protecting the sides of your cars, protecting the passengers, basically. I think very, very few cars have side intrusion beams, notably the Nexon, the XUV 300 and the Polo. Surprisingly, side intrusion beams were also standard in very, very few old cars like the Maruti then. So this was made, mandatory by 1st October 2019 for existing models, and every single new model from 1st October 2017. Right. So are we done? No. BS6 is not the final. Giving passive safety is not the final blow. What else? Again, emissions and safety. So this is a kind of a roadmap. So what lies after BS6? BS6 phase 2. So we are in this crazy scenario where we've decided to skip BS5 and go straight from BS4 to BS6. So for somebody like you and me, it would mean a minimum of a 2 lakh increase on a BS6 vehicle, right? So suppose you're saying, okay, fine, I want to buy an Alto. Alto is petrol, so petrol BS4 to BS6 shouldn't be a big fuss. Say it would be a maximum 10 to 15,000. But suppose you want to buy, say, a Figo, right? A Figo diesel, which is one of the best handling cars. Okay, a BS4 Figo diesel might cost around 6 lakhs. A BS6 Figo diesel should, in theory, cost you 8 lakhs. But can you physically feel that extra 2 lakh increase? You can feel it when you have to take it to the service station, and it will cost you more money to service your car or to, quote unquote, maintain your car. So your wallet will curse you, your family will curse you for buying a diesel BS6 car because of all the fussing about it will do. But then the government wants us to even make this more strict with BS6 phase 2, which is CAFE 2 norms and real driving emissions. Ironically, there is a picture. I don't know if you can see this picture here, but this is a Volkswagen Golf. So why Volkswagen is portrayed here? Because they were the biggest you could say, cheaters of emission data with the whole Dieselgate scandal. Daimler was also involved, but Volkswagen, more often. So, which is why they've decided, fine, you might be able to make some device which will, scrape through in the laboratory. But when the car is driving on the road, I would like to check your emissions, and only if that passes, your car can be sold. So this is the whole idea of real driving emissions. Whatever the lab says is fine, but only when it's confirmed on the road with a portable emission testing device will the car be able to be sold in that particular market. So you might say, what is CAFE? Corporate average fuel efficiency is what CAFE is. So suppose Toyota sells about 10,000 cars a month. So the average of all those 10,000 cars, average of what? Average of fuel consumption and average of carbon dioxide produced by those cars should be within a permissible limit. So who will this hurt the most? It would hurt the people who sell the most cars and the people who sell the least cars. And the middle people would just scrape through. So there are stringent norms being enforced to effectively phase out IC engine cars, traditional IC engine cars, and make them electrified, say hybrids or fuel cells or full-on battery-powered electric vehicles. And this is also something new, which is something new for India, which is E20 or ethanol blended petrol. E20 is basically 20% of ethanol and 80% of petrol. The target to bring in E20 was around 2024 or 2025, but it has been brought about earlier by the government, especially the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So you might ask, will this E20 be detrimental to my car? So if it is any car post 1997, it should not, because E20 is manageable by the cars. Something atrocious like E50 or E95, which is basically the next thing, flex fuel, is not manageable by the older cars. So what is this E20? What in God's name is ethanol? Ethanol is something which gives you lesser power, lesser fuel efficiency, but is cheaper. So when you'll be shelling out 103 rupees per liter for speed petrol, you'll be shelling out only 50 rupees per liter of E20. So that would not give you the same fuel efficiency as your lightweight, unsafe Maruti 20 kmpl cars, but it might give you somewhere in the range of 15 to 16, and also making your engine last not longer, last lesser in terms of life. And in most components, it also erodes the pipes due to the inherent nature of alcohol. But there are proper flex fuel cars like what is sold in Brazil, which can take in E95 or even E100 in certain cases. So those cars you would not have an issue because it is tuned to be only run on E95 or E85. The cars which are being tuned to run on only petrol will have the issue. And this is not the only case. Most of you might know or might not know that the sulfur content is what makes the diesel, highly lubricant in nature. But then the sulfur content in BS6 diesel is very low. So you might have seen people offering heavy discounts on BS4 cars in April and March 2020. But you might seem like you have earned the most, but you're the biggest loser. Why? Because BS6 fuel in BS4 diesel cars will make the car's life last lesser. Because BS4 cars were tuned to run on higher sulfur fuel, so that the fuel pumps, the injectors will get lubricated with the BS4 fuel, high sulfur content fuel. But now they would have to be replaced or cleaned manually every, say, a couple of years or so, because they're not getting the lubrication that they need, because there is no sulfur in the fuel. You might get away with a few fuel additives, but then everything has its own lifespan, and that's how the way it is. On the safety front, people, you would have heard about traction control electronic stability program. This is not something new for you. Basically the car's computer system takes over and helps you with the brakes, the steering, and maintaining the course. When you don't have the ESP, you would go off course. When you have the ESP, you will stay on course, especially in wet conditions. Also, autonomous driver assistance systems, which detect which is displayed as autonomous emergency braking, which detects a pedestrian or a cyclist or any stopped car in front of you and brakes automatically for you. Next, you have 6 airbags, which is about to be mandated by the Indian government. So why am I telling you all this? Why does ESP, ADAS, airbags matter? You might have all learned about this. You might be even doing projects in this. This is going to be mandated in every single car possible. So you might find an Alto 800 in a couple of years which has ADAS, which has 6 airbags, and which has ESP. So the next would be effective, cost-effective, and cheap ways of making airbags, ADAS modules, and technology, ESP and traction control technology, which is one of the areas which you can focus on, making it cost-effective. Now, we come to the main part. What exactly are the disruptions? So you would have seen this acronym being thrown around in every single symposium which you go to, which is CASE. What is CASE? C stands for connected cars, A for autonomous mobility, S for shared mobility, and E for electric. Although I would not say electric, but electrified. Now, connected cars, you might have seen, like I said, the Kia Seltos, which is basically connects your phone to the car and all your favorite coffee shops. It shows you on the maps without actually you inputting the data in your car. It takes it from your phone. This is one form of connectivity. The other form of connectivity is multiple cars talking to each other, which really help out in traffic management, reducing accidents, and making your cars more fuel efficient. The second would be autonomous driving, where the car practically drives itself. You can't call it a car anymore. It is more like mobility as a service, which comes back to S being shared mobility. You might say, fine, I have to go to this location at this point of time. I'll open my phone. It would be something like Ola or Uber when they make autonomous taxis possible. You hail a car and it will come to you, to your place. It won't haggle you saying, I want 1.5 times the price. I'm not going to that location because I don't like you, or I won't get a trip back. So the car will listen to you, it will come pick you up, it will drop you, and it will drive by itself. It would just be connected to a data center somewhere, and to the other cars it follows, or to save time, fuel, and be cost effective at the same time. Finally, we come to the main thing, which is electrified mobility. You might have all seen this Tesla, which are the pioneers in electric vehicle space. Basically saying that an electric car need not be dumb. It can be fun to drive. It can be the fastest thing out there. For reference, the Tesla Model S Plaid, and it can be clean at the same time and recyclable. Well, I beg to differ, because I feel electric mobility just via battery source, a lithium-ion battery, is not the future. I would go for electrified mobility with, say, a hybrid vehicle or a fuel cell vehicle, with hydrogen fuel cells. And also, hybrids, like you have a series hybrid layout or a series parallel layout or a combined hybrid layout, wherein you use the IC engine on highways and the electric motor in congested areas, and you don't have to switch. The car will do it for you. That is how the Camry works. It will switch on its Atkinson cycle 2.7 liter engine whenever it wants to, when it needs to be charged or it's on a highway, and it will use the electric motor whenever it wants to in slow speed conditions. So this is about what I can give you for say 1 hour. I would like to have more discussions in person if possible, or we could work on a project together, maybe collaborate with our uh, you know collective thinking as well. So this is about it from my side. If you're considering a career in the automotive industry, it is a really good place, especially the Indian automotive industry. And I feel this would be enough to get you excited and make better products for the Indian consumer and the world consumer as well, considering global products made in India, developed in India by Indians. So that's about it. Thank you very much for your time. I think we can move on to the Q&A session. Do connect with me on LinkedIn, and also you can find this lecture as well as many other lectures I have given and few weekly updates about what is happening in the automobile industry on my YouTube channel. So thank you very much. I think we can go on to the questionnaire session.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for such a wonderful and very informative and inspiring session. I'd like to ask everybody if you have any questions or any queries regarding the session. You feel free to talk to sir, and you can ask your questions via the chat, or you can turn your mics on.
Yeah, I feel it will be better if you can just unmute and ask me a question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, you said about electrified vehicles. Now the charging stations are less in our country. So how
Yes,
could
yes.
we travel a long distance in electric vehicles?
Correct. That is the only issue with your car being powered only by a battery, which is why electrified mobility in, say, a hybrid car, where you have the option of using the engine as well as the battery pack, is more efficient. So, in the highway, when your engine is the most efficient, you can use the petrol engine or diesel engine with a big fuel tank. And in the cities where there is most congestion, you can use your electric motor. But if you're still hell bent on an electric battery powered electric vehicle, uh, you should just plan your journey in the way of in the most fast charger, which is which would be very constricting in the beginning. When you would not like your journey as well. Stopping every 300 kilometers for 30 minutes for finding a fast charger, and it's not as if there are that many fast chargers in any route in the whole of the country. And it also doesn't mean that when you go to a fast charger or whatever, be it you book it on an app, that there would be a slot available for you. You might end up waiting 3 hours to get the slot, and then the fast charger might not work, and you might end up slow charging the car, which it will take 8 or 9 hours, which is horrible. So, which is why hybrid vehicles should be the middleman, or so to speak, the middle technology, before we fully move on to battery powered electric vehicles, but not to the battery hydrogen fuel cell. So the only issue of us finding to how store hydrogen safely is the issue now, which I feel people can work on as well, but please be careful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for impeccable answer.
Thank you, Naveen, for attending as well.
So, do you think it's only because the popularity of the battery powered electric vehicles that they're, or just like the whole marketing thing that's bringing them to all the notice, and the hydrogen powered vehicles, which are, in your viewpoint, better or like more subjectively sound, not getting the proper spotlight or the limelight they deserve, or there is some other reason behind them not being in the front spot rather than the battery vehicles?
Right. So when you take about making a product, there are completely three things. One, is it viable for your business? Two, do the people want it? Three, does the government support you? So the government has been, the Indian government at least, has been pushing for electric vehicles right from the past few years ago, called the FAME 1 scheme, which says faster adoption for manufacturing of electric vehicles in India. So basically, that said, we would give you a tax cut for so many years if your electric vehicle is manufactured in India, has a lead acid battery, and it goes not more than 30 kmph. So if your vehicle fits into this criteria, we would give you a tax cut and straight 5,000 rupees off the ex-showroom price. So this is what I want to tell you is government driven. So when FAME 1 was about to close, they came up with FAME 2. And recently the newer FAME 2 says your vehicle should be lithium ion battery powered. So we would give you a state 10% off the price, and every single state has its own policy. Like for example, Tamil Nadu has removed uh, its road tax for electric vehicles, and also I think the Indian government also has removed registration fees. So it's highly government driven, and it's easier to make a battery electric vehicle rather than something which is battery powered plus petrol powered or plus diesel powered. Also, batteries have been there for a long time. Lithium ion is nothing new. Lithium ion has been used in personal computers, personal laptops, mobile phones, and every single portable device which you can see. Lead acid was used only in cars, the automobile industry. But then initially, when people wanted an EV also, they used lead acid batteries. And I think this first, second or third slide when I talked about the unorganized three-wheeler sector, it is totally with lead acid batteries. So again, one, it is easier to make only a battery electric vehicle. Two, the government is giving us tax cuts. And three, the people accept it. The people accept it, you cannot say is the whole demographic of the country. You will not find the electric vehicle, say an 8 or 450X, as the only vehicle in that person's garage. They would also have either a car or an Activa. So that is not the only thing they invest in. That is not the only car. Plus, Indians like to do a lot of things with one product which they have. As I think Naveen also said, long distance would be very difficult. So if you compare it to European, they have 2 or 3 cars. So one car would be used for the office, for the daily commute. That would be an electric vehicle because they know that they're not going to travel more than, say, a particular set of kilometers a day. So why would they need more range? So only for the weekend trips, long trips, they would use the IC engine. So I feel it is highly government driven. It is, customer driven and also business viable. Because the major issue with the Toyota Prius is not that Toyota can't make it or they are not getting support from the people. It's not that. Why did the Prius cost 50 lakhs when any Corolla or even Camry in 2003, 2004 costed no more than 25 lakhs? Because it was an import. The entire tax debacle which is there in India is causing hybrids to be phased out. Because when you have a hybrid, they don't say, oh, nice, okay, you have a battery, so I'll give you a tax cut. No. You have a big fat engine in your car, you also have a battery. I am not giving you any sort of tax cut. I am imposing more tax on you. So hybrids are the most taxed. Then coming to hydrogen fuel cells are only being developed by Hyundai, Toyota, and most of the truck manufacturers, like say Freightliner or even again Hyundai with their Nexo. So hydrogen is something which is popping up in Japan and the European markets, but not so much in India because we have not come to accept the electric vehicle itself. So once we accept the electric vehicle, we would see that it is very horrible in the sense of low range, long charging times, and we would say, I want a hybrid. Fine. The hybrid is nice. But then the government would say no more IC engine cars. So what will they say? I am not going back to an electric vehicle, so I'll go for a hydrogen fuel cell, which I just fill up with hydrogen. So by that time, it would be around 50 or 60 years, and people would have figured out how to safely store and transport hydrogen. So at that time, fuel cell cars will be the only things running on the roads. So to sum up, the government hates you or likes you depending upon what technology you have. The people accept or don't accept depending upon what technology you have, and it's not viable to the business. So three major factors.
So how far do you think are we from a total shift or like a shift towards when we start seeing Toyota fuel cell cars or like even Maruti or Tata making a fuel cell car for India? How far in future are we looking forward to that?
For the Indian market, a long time. Say as an import, as an import with people, just testing the cars. I feel it's very soon, probably a decade or so, just for testing, but not for full on production or even use. Full on production would be around 30 to 40 years, but use probably 10 to 15 years.
Okay, okay, sir.
Hello, sir. I'm Vamsi.
Yes, tell me.
When I see in the India market, I think people don't have much choice. Like Honda is really a big manufacturer, but we can find only three cars like readily available.
Correct, exactly. One thing you might find, you've mentioned Honda. So Honda Civic Type R is a really big thing in the European markets. So that Type R or the Civic itself was started out as a hatchback. So when we had the Civic sedan in India, European customers had the Civic hatchback. So that developed into a luxury hatch, not a luxury hatch. I'm sorry, it was a mid-size hatch, and slowly people decided to have a sportier variant. You know, to compete with the likes of the Fiat Punto and Ford. I think Fiesta ST or the Fiesta RS. So again, great cars which we don't get in India. Uh, so why did it evolve there? Why do Europeans get the fastest four-cylinder at that time, the fastest four-cylinder hatch at that time, or even the AMG A45S? So why do they get it and we don't? Simple. If your car is sub 4 meters, you get a tax cut. If your engine is 1.5 liters or if it's lesser than 1 liter and it produces lesser power, you get a tax cut. If your car, you take the Mahindra Thar for example, it is lesser than 4 meters long, but the engine is around 2000 cc and it has a turbo, so it gets no tax cut. Whereas the TUV 300 is sub 4 meters and it gets a tax cut. So this, taxation of cars is what leads us to a very difficult product portfolio in India. Honda might have really great cars and trucks like the Ridgeline, the Civic, the CRV, but then no other country apart from very few like Japan and India tax cars like this so much or really hate the car so much. So I would say the tax is the main reason that we don't have performance hatches, performance cars, easily affordable cars, performance cars in India. I mean, we don't even have a proper pickup truck. The only pickup truck we have, which is the cheapest, is the Bolero pickup, and that cannot be registered as a private car. The next thing is Tata Xenon was there, but that was also discontinued, and it became the Xenon Yoda, which was a commercial vehicle again. So the cheapest pickup truck on sale, or the only pickup truck on sale, is the Isuzu V-Cross, and that itself starts at around 25 lakhs. So 25 lakhs for a pickup truck is no way. But then when you find people like, customers in Thai markets, Thailand and all, they use their pickup truck as their daily car. You want to go out for a movie or dinner, you use your pickup truck. You're shifting your house, you use a pickup truck. You go for a long drive, you use a pickup truck. So the same way Indians use hatchbacks, they use pickup trucks. And they get a lot of tax cuts for making pickup trucks, or a significant number of pickup trucks in Thailand and the Southeast Asian markets. But we get tax cuts if we make a smaller capacity engine in a small car. And we have to make do with what car we have.
And also, sir, like there are many regulations in India about modification of the vehicle you have.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So basically, you get a car from a manufacturer, and that's it. You can't modify it. You put an extra sticker somewhere. The fellow will say, "You're fined. Give me your license. Jail for 1 year." So all this nonsense happens in India, unfortunately. Whereas you find people doing engine swaps and getting an MOT done in the UK and the US. You've seen Teslas being converted into IC, Audis being converted into EVs with Tesla battery packs and motors, and most of the time it is registered with the local Department of Motor Vehicles. It gets an MOT inspection and it's legal to drive on the road, which is not the case in India.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Right.
So you were talking about shared mobility, and like with Ola and Uber getting popularity, like they are really popular
Right.
now.
Right.
What do you feel about it, and what do you think? Will there be a time when car ownership would be like a thing of novelty, and we'd all be subscribing for our cars, and we'll be ordering them to get to our places? And what do you think about it? Would it be a nice time to live in? Very.
Shared mobility has taken a back seat thanks to the corona pandemic. In the past 2 years, Ola and Uber have lost a lot of taxi, cabs or revenue due to these cases. This is the vertical I'm talking about, only the shared mobility space. Because of the corona pandemic, people have decided, okay, I want a car for myself. I don't want to go with 3, 4 people every single day in a tight space, because one might have corona, one might not have corona, and the entire car might be affected. So personal mobility has taken a front seat ahead of shared mobility. But then suppose all this pandemic, subsides and we get proper vaccines which um, work against all the variants as well, the Delta Plus or whatever comes, will be protected. If that is the case, you might still have germaphobes who say, no, I want a car by myself, but then majority of the people will move to shared mobility, especially when the fuel prices are skyrocketing. You might even see people with fully electric cars, because it costs or little to nothing for the fleet operator. Because imagine you're a fleet operator like Fast Track, for example, Fast Track, or let's say Ola itself. You have 10 or 20 Tata Nexon EVs, right? You also have a big fat warehouse with a huge area and full roof part you've covered with solar panels. So basically, you get electricity for free. You put in that free electricity. Excuse me. You put in that free electricity into your cars, and you drive about and make money. Obviously, it won't be free. You might have to pay a couple of, again, taxes to the government. But then this is the thing. So for the fleet operator, it's literally next to nothing if it's EV and it's shared mobility. But for an individual, EVs would be really a killer. So suppose shared mobility takes off, right? You would still have a driver. We have not come, India at least, Indian roads are not autonomous level 5 or level 6 capable. And you will not find a taxi coming by itself to pick you up and take you to places. So in that scenario, where you have a physical person operating the car, when there is no corona, fine, taxis, okay. Secondly, as you said, you might want to subscribe to a car only for a month. If you see the same 1 month subscription value, I wanted my next car to be a Toyota Fortuner, but I didn't want to pay for it in full. I just wanted to use it for a couple of years. So when I was looking at rates, right? So the subscription rate for 1 month was around I think it was around 50,000 rupees. 50,000 rupees 1 month. So 50,000 rupees over, say, a period of 8 years, right, will sum up to around, one second, make a small calculation. It will sum up to around 48 lakhs. So you use the car for 8 years. Say it's not at one stretch. It can be, say, a subscription once for this 1 month, next month. In the span of 8 years, you say, in the long time, in the long period, you would have spent 48 lakhs, which is 8 lakhs more than the cost of one Fortuner had you bought it, right? And the Fortuner lasts for a really long time. If you had bought it for 40 lakhs, you're easily selling it for, say, 25 lakhs, especially the new fellows which are there on sale. So in a subscription model for a long term, I would suggest not to go for the subscription model because you'll end up paying more for the car and you will not end up with the car of your own. If you don't want to keep it for a long time, you just want, say, a Figo I'm using every single, every month or so. If I don't care who's been in it before, as long as it's clean, fine, go ahead, no problem at all. But still, nothing beats personal car ownership. And plus, for Indians, it is the second biggest investment they do. First is their house, second is their car. So sentimentally, I feel, especially with the older generation, sentimentally, I would feel people go on towards private car ownership rather than subscription. So, yeah, you could say, fine, the young Indian or the hip crowd want to subscribe to a car, but I feel getting a car for yourself, even though it's a used car and you're cleaning out, whatever gunk has been there by the previous owner, which would be much better than subscribing to a car. Or even if you are subscribing to a car, kindly go to the leasing route and lease a brand new car. Lease might be cheaper once it is a full-fledged system available from every single manufacturer in India, like it is there in the US.
Yes, sir, definitely. So I just wanted to confirm we're not holding you back, or you have some. Whenever you can feel like it, you can end the session.
No, I'm
We
happy with the
keep
interaction.
bugging
No
you up
issues
with
at all.
more questions.
No problem at all. It's a Friday evening. I'm on leave tomorrow, so it's no problem at all.
It's okay, sir.
So I think we can have a couple of more questions. Or if you would like to reach out to me offline as well, you can reach me on LinkedIn. My contact info will also be there. You can connect. You can also
You can
check
also
out my
subscribe
YouTube
to
channel.
his YouTube channel. I've posted the link in the chat. You can please do subscribe to him. He's, of course, amazing.
Thank you for that compliment. No, I would like to take on, say, projects if at all you have any, research work or something on a personal scale. I would like to take on, if at all you have any proposals. I'm
Definitely. So
game to them as well.
you'd be having a lot of SAV ITNs texting you about personal projects and everything.
Nice to know. Any more questions from the audience?
So I don't think anyone's speaking or putting anything in the chat.
Okay, great. I think we can wind up then. You can feel free to connect with me on social media. You can bring me up as well.
Okay, sir.